Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Sodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Yamuna Tira Vanachariti Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravajakacharya Astacharya Sutta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantagota Vaishnavandi Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Prime Sikha Host Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopya Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shivanavandam Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavdam Ki Jai Gangamaya Ki Jai Jamunamaya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Gau Premanandi. All glories some devotees, all glories some devotees, all glories some devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, Text number 22. Bandi, Akshay, Kaitavais, Charyar, Garitam, Ritim, Astita, Bibrat, Kutumbam, Asuchir, Yatayang, Asa, Dehina, Banyakshay, Kaita Vaischaryar, Garhitang Vidum Astita, Bibrat Kutumbam Asuchir, Yatayang Asadehinaha, Banyakshay Kaita Vaischaryar, Garhitang Vitim Asitaha, Bibrat Kutumbam Asuchir, Yatayang Asadehinaha, Banyakshay Kaita Vaischaryar, Garhitang Vitim Asitaha, Bibrat Kutumbam Asuchir, Yatayang asadehinaha.
Does your book say asuchir?
Asuchir.
Yeah, it's wrong. It should be asuchir. Mistaken book.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, asuchir. Yeah, you're right.
Vanyakshay kaita vaishcharyam. Garitam vrittamasthitaha. Vibhratkutum bhamasuchir. Yatayamasa dehinaha. Vanyakshay kaita vaishcharyam.
Yakshay kaita vaishchauryaer Garhitam vrittamastadaha Vibhrat kudumbam ashuchir Yatayamasa dehinaha Vanyakshay kitavasha chayarer Garitam vritam ashtahatiha
Garitam vritam asitaha.
Vibhrat kutumbam ashuchir
Vibhrat kutumbam asuchir.
Yatayamasa dehineha
Yatayamasa Bandi Akshay, by unnecessarily arresting someone. Kaitavai, by cheating and gambling or throwing dice. Charyai, by committing theft. Garhitam, condemned. Vritim, professions. Asitaha, who has undertaken because of association with a prostitute. Bibrat, maintaining. Kutumbam, his dependent wife and children. Asuchi, being most sinful. Yatayam, asa, he gave trouble. Dehina, to other living entities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. This fallen Brahmana, Ajamil, gave trouble to others by arresting them, by cheating them and gambling, or by directly plundering them. This was the way he earned his livelihood and maintained his wife and children. Purport. This verse indicates how degraded one becomes simply by indulging in illicit sex with a prostitute. Illicit sex is not possible with a chaste or aristocratic woman, but only with unchaste śūdras. The more society allows prostitution and illicit sex, the more impetus it gives to cheaters, thieves, plunderers, drunkards, and gamblers. Therefore, we first advise all the disciples in our Krishna consciousness movement to avoid illicit sex, which is the beginning of all abominable life and which is followed by meat-eating, gambling, and intoxication, one after another. Of course, restraint is very difficult, but it is quite possible if one fully surrenders to Krishna, since all these abominable habits gradually become distasteful for a Krishna-conscious person. If illicit sex is allowed to increase in a society, however, the entire society will be condemned, for it will be full of rogues, thieves, cheaters, and so forth. Om Jnanatamanandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitim Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Mukam Krotavatal Pangum Lang Hayategarim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Shigurum Dinataranam Vanchakalpatubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Here we're hearing how Ajamya, he became very degraded because of attachment to this prostitute, and therefore he engaged in so many other sinful activities. So the goal of the human form of life is to realize, first of all, that we're not the body. Now, Ajamya, he grew up in a nice family, nice Brahmin family, but just by that momentarily association with this, just seeing this prostitute, he became affected. Prabhupada was given a class in Los Angeles, and he was speaking, and he heard some music, and he asked, "What is that?" "Well, Prabhupada, that's an ice cream truck." And Prabhupada said, "You're eating ice cream?" "No, Prabhupada, it's just they go through the neighborhood. They're trying to." Well, Prabhupada said, "Oh, they're canvassing." And it's nice, they have these nice, music, and Prabhupada said, "Yes, you see." Maya is saying, "Come, enjoy, come." So, yeah, that's the senses are attracted to different things, and he gave the example of the deer. The hunter, they play the flute very nicely, and it attracts the deer, and then the deer gets captured, killed. Attraction. And the sense of smell, the bee, they smell the honey or the flower, and they go in there, and it gets captured by the flower. Yeah. And sight. What's the example of the sight? Huh? Huh? No. Elephant. Yeah, he sees the she-elephant, very attractive. Yeah. Got the curly tail there, very attractive. Very beautiful. But there's a pit there near the female, and when he goes to enjoy, then he gets captured in the pit. I don't know how they get him out of there. big elephants. Huh? Maybe it was the genitals?
And then I thought the moth one. Yeah. Maybe. Could be wrong.
I think Prabhupada mentioned it was like the sight was the... Anyway, we'll look it up. So then the... what else? So there's the sight, there's the smelling, there's the hearing, taste. Oh yeah, the taste. The fisherman, he puts the worm on the hook, and the fish, he sees that dinner there. It looks so good, and he eats it, and he gets pulled, finished. So the senses, they pull. They live in anything. We have, we just mentioned these different animals that are attracted in different ways. So, but human beings, we have all these senses are attracted in different ways. Yeah. So to control the senses is it's a great challenge. One has to be Krishna conscious and understand or not the senses. Evam buddhe padam buddva samstabdhyatmanamatmana jahi satvang mahabhava kamarupam dharasana. Krishna says, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, one should steady oneself by carefully engaging in Krishna consciousness and slay this formidable enemy known as lust. So this is actually the big enemy of the living entity, is this lust, as we're seeing here. He was doing so nicely, but then he became bewildered because of this great enemy, lust. So the person who can control the senses, he's called a Goswami or Dhira. Goswami controls the senses. And the person who can, he's called a Godas. Godas. Servant of the senses. So better be a servant of Krishna than a servant of the senses, because we're seeing here, this is the result of his being servant to the senses. He becomes attracted and bewildered. Dhyayato vasayang pungsas sangaste subhajayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, one becomes attracted to them. From such attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger. From anger, bewilderment. From bewilderment, memory. When memory is bewildered, the intelligence is lost. When the intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So it begins with that contemplation, or contemplating the objects of the senses. So then one becomes captured. In one purport, Prabhupada says, he says that one should be captured by this knowledge. People are captured, their senses are captured. But this knowledge is so wonderful, we should be captured by it. So we're not interested in anything else. We just want to serve Krishna. We want to understand this philosophy and dedicate our lives to Krishna. It's like Raghunath Das Goswami. He was such an incredible devotee, such a humble Vaishnava. He never spoke to Lord Chaitanya. He would only communicate through Swarup Damodar. So he asked him, so what is my duty? What is my duty, Raghunath Das Goswami? His family was so rich, just like multi-millionaire. He wasn't interested, he just wanted to get the wealth of devotion to Krishna. So through Swarup Damodar, he asked him, what is my duty? He said, what should I do? He said, don't talk, Lord Chaitanya said, he gave these instructions, don't talk like the people in general, or hear what they have to say. There's a lot of nonsense talk going on in the material world. Don't hear it, nor speak like they do. Don't dress very opulently. Like people have these wardrobes, spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on clothes, thousands of dollars. Yeah, we have a simple thing. We just have dhoti, kurta. Some of us have some yogi pants. Very simple dress. Nor eat very opulent food. We eat very simple, vegetarian, simple. I remember I was talking to this one person. He was going to a restaurant. He said he's going to. This is back in 1977. He's going to a restaurant. He's going to pay $200 for breakfast. Yeah, this was 47 years ago. I mean, that's like $1,000 now. $200 on breakfast. Yeah, I mean, don't want to mention him. I don't know what he was eating, but people just they want to, the tongue, the tongue is they're pulled by the tongue, most voracious and uncontrollable. So and the tongue has these two functions, to taste and to speak. So I want to speak nonsense and taste nonsense. So we're fortunate we have nice, simple prasadam, healthy, nice prasadam. So those are 4 instructions. Then he said, one should think oneself very humble and offer all respects. Don't expect respect for yourself, and offer all respects to others. Such a nice, there's that verse, Lord Chaitanya. Trinadapi Sunitida. Think of oneself lower than the straw on the street, more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others without desiring respect for oneself. In such a state of mind, we could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Imagine, this is the instruction on how to chant the holy name constantly. Humility. And then he said, always chant the holy name of Krishna. So first he gives the direction on how to chant the holy name. Think oneself low, offer respects to others, don't desire respect for oneself. And so this way we can always chant the holy name. And then he says the last one, which is the most difficult, he said, within your mind, always think of rendering service to Sri Sri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So these are we can learn. These are instructions for everybody, actually. So this is the way to advance in Krishna consciousness. We're given this great opportunity to advance in Krishna consciousness, to understand who we are, to understand who Krishna is. A couple weeks ago, I was speaking to one of the guests here at the lounge, and he was asking me, do we exist? So, well, I think so. What is that? I think, therefore I am. Who was it that said that? Descartes. I think, therefore I am. If you don't exist, then how can you think? So I gave him that example. Yeah, of course. He said, well, I'm 98% sure that we exist, but there's a little bit there. Kali Yuga. So yes, we do exist, and we exist to please Krishna. This is the reason that we exist, and Krishna has come and he's given us this opportunity to surrender to him, to give our life to him, and advance. But some people, they can't appreciate. Just like there's an example of 3 poor men, very poor men. So this person came delivering some mail to them. They each got an envelope. And one of them opened it up, and he thought, oh, it's gold, it's golden. Maybe it's actually gold. So he took it to the goldsmith. He said, hey, what is this? No, it's nothing. You got fooled. This is nothing. So he started laughing and just threw it in the trash. Another one didn't even open it. He just thought, this is junk mail, and just threw it in the trash. And the last one, he asked the person who delivered the mail, well, what's this about? He said, well, that card is a credit card, and you can get whatever you want. There's no limit. Oh, well, okay, well, that sounds like a good deal. He said, you won the prize. So he became very wealthy. So some people, just like when we're distributing books, some people, no interest whatsoever. 0 interest. They don't know that there's a great treasure in this knowledge. Yeah. And there's even an example of Lord Shiva and Parvati. They were dressed like regular village people. And one person came up and asking for donation. And Lord Shiva said, I don't have anything. And Parvati said, yeah, give him something. Yeah. So he gave him a watermelon. And this person thought, I don't even like watermelon. So he sold it to someone for a few pice or something in the village there. And the person he sold it to opened it up, and there's priceless gems in the watermelon. He didn't know. So people don't know we're distributing this priceless knowledge, this very valuable knowledge. They just, not interested. So this person also didn't know, just junk mail. And some people, they get the knowledge, and they open up the book, and here's something that's interesting, but then lose interest and give it up. Or someone will say, what do you? This is nonsense. You just don't follow this. This is compared to the second person. But the other one, he asked the person who was delivering, what's this about? He was inquisitive. What's this about? Yeah. So that's the most intelligent. So we should inquire. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. Yeah. And we're very fortunate, we have this absolute truth. So, tadvidhi pranipatena, one must inquire submissively from the spiritual master, render service unto him. The spiritual master, he can impart knowledge unto him because he's seen the truth. So, to inquire about the absolute truth, this is very intelligent. Yeah. Last night I was speaking to one student who didn't believe in God. And I said, well, there's a lot of things you don't know. I gave her that line, like billions of things. So one of the things you don't know is whether there's a God or not. And the student said, well, I have this gut feeling. No, wait a second, you're not your intestines. You don't take guidance from your intestines. We're different from this body. We're the soul. And I gave the example how even someone so intelligent, Socrates, Plato, had a firm understanding that they were the soul, something different from the body. We're different from the body. We're the soul within, which is part of that supreme soul. And the other student made an interesting statement that there was one philosopher that came to the understanding that we are very insignificant. Yeah. We're so small, and it's true. You look at the universe. We're so small. It's like I was speaking to a student at the university the other day. Also, he had this profound understanding. It was so profound. He pulled over. And said, "Wait a second, I'm so small." And we're so small. Materially, we don't even exist. But spiritually, we're very significant. Materially, we're like, we don't even exist materially. But spiritually, we have a very big position. We're the sons of God, daughters of God. We're part of God. So we're very significant. Spiritually. Materially, we don't even exist. So this is the position. So, of course, there's this very materialistic activity, or this that doesn't have to be materialistic activity. Just like who is that? He told Lord Chaitanya that his wife was pregnant, and Lord Chaitanya became very happy. Srinivas Acharya? Shivananda saying. So they had sex. Him and his wife had sex. And a child. She was pregnant. And Lord Chaitanya was so happy. So it was sex, but Lord Chaitanya was happy. This is sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. It's completely pure sex. You don't... Yeah. Yeah. What was his name?
Well, he probably, what's the name he gave me? Puridas.
Puridas, but then he became Kavi Karnapur. Yeah. At one point, they were visiting Lord Chaitanya, and he sucked Lord Chaitanya's toe. Okay. So imagine what mercy. I mean, geez, you can't beat that mercy. Right? So, sex is not bad. Illicit sex is bad, and therefore it's condemned. And throughout the world, it's illicit sex. Of course, someone who's very low class, they're into it. But anybody who's in the upper echelons of society, they'll say, well, this is low class, to just, associate with prostitutes or to act in very low grade, in a low way. But to engage the genitals in the service of Krishna, this is pure. And we should engage all our senses in the service of Krishna, just like daily we're engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. We're seeing the deities. We're getting purified just by seeing the deities, hearing the holy name. Yeah. We're smelling the flowers. I think we can start passing the flower around again. I think the COVID is over now. We weren't doing that for 3 years. I think we can start passing the flower around again.
They were doing. He did it, but Maharaj told him to put it back on you.
Really? Still?
That's what he said.
Okay. So yeah, we'll smell the flowers. We get to smell the perfume and offer to the deities. We taste the Krishna prasadam. So in this way, the senses, they get purified. We speak about Krishna, so the senses get purified. In this way, also the soul gets purified. Iha yasya hare dasya karmana manasagira. Anyone who engages his mind, his body, his words in the service of Krishna is liberated, even within this very lifetime. So this is what we're doing. Engaging our mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna. In this way, eventually we'll become purified. And this is the goal of life, to get purified and to develop our love for Krishna. And Prabhupada says in one purport, interesting, he says that this pleasure of sex is the main pleasure in this material world. In the spiritual world, that pleasure is always there, but there's no illicit sex. There's always this ecstasy that one is feeling in the service of Krishna. It's very interesting, huh? The sex life, 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes, you have that, material pleasure. But in the spiritual world, there's always that pleasure. Interesting. So, any question or comment? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll have some inner questions here first, okay?
Okay, Prabhu.
If I could share this one wonderful sweet pastime of Puridas.
Yeah.
So, as many of you know, the Bengali devotees would come to see Lord Chaitanya every year for the Rath Yatra, and Shivananda Sain would manage everything. So he was coming there. So this is one of those years. His son was by this time grown up a little bit. He's 5 years old, So this is unchaste 1665. Shivananda Sain, that year, Shivananda Sain brought with him his wife and youngest son, Puridas.
Oh yeah, okay.
Taking his son, Shivananda Sain went to see Lord Chaitanya at his residence. Shivananda made his son offer respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of the Lord. Again and again, Lord Chaitanya asked the boy to chant the name of Krishna, but the boy would not utter the holy name. Although Shivananda Sain tried with much endeavor to get, Shivananda Sain now tried to get his boy speak Krishna's holy name, he would not utter it. Lord Chaitanya said,
maybe he was shy.
You'll see what happened. Lord Chaitanya said, I have induced the whole world to take the holy name of Krishna. I have induced even the trees and the immovable plants to chant the holy name. But I could not induce this boy to chant the holy name of Krishna. Hearing this, Swarup Damodar said, My Lord, you have given him initiation into the name of Krishna, but after receiving the mantra, he will not express it in front of everyone. This boy chants the mantra within his mind, but does not say it aloud. That is his intention, as far as I can guess. Another day, Lord Chaitanya told the boy, recite, my dear Puri Das, recite, because he's only 5 years old. He's already writing. He's already writing verses, Kavi Karnapur. So the boy composed the following verse and expressed it before everyone. So it sounds like he may compose it on the spot, which is far out. I mean, that seems what it says here. So this verse, when I first read it, I was working on this chapter. This is one of the chapters I worked in. It says 75. And I said, this is a great verse. I memorized it. Shavaso kubalahimakshno andanamudaso mehindamanidama vrindavanaramanina mandanamakidam hadir jayati. 5-year-old boy just composed. Lord Shri Krishna is just like a bluish lotus flower for the ears. He is ointment for the eyes, a necklace of Indranila gems for the chest. Those are dark blue gems. The universal universal ornaments for the gopi damsels of Vrindavan. Let that Lord Shri Hari Krishna be glorified. Although the boy was only 7 years old and still had no education, he composed such a nice verse, everyone was struck with wonder.
Wow.
Yeah.
And as far as the 5 things, in that particular lecture in L.A., Prabhupada...
He didn't give anything for the eyes, but he had for the fish, the tongue, for the touch, you say, for the elephants, for the ears, the deer hearing the flute, and for the smell, some big black flies get trapped in the lotus flower and they die like that.
But later, in other places, he gave them all.
As it's going into the fire.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, anything else on the inside here? Yeah, Dimitri Prabhu.
I just want to share a pastime. Yesterday I was distributing books in Balboa Park, and I met this one Mataji. She was in her 20s, and she was saying there's so many bad things are happening to me lately. She lives in the northern part of California, like somewhere close to the forest, and she said, the bears got into my house. They were seeking for some food. The bears. And then the other day I was on a hike, she said, and the wild dogs attacked me, and I got some sort of like disease from it, And then she said, I'm allergic to bees, and the bees bit me. And then I was going to San Diego, and instead of a 6-hour ride, it turned out to be 12 hours because the police pulled me over thinking that I killed somebody because there was an accident on the road. And I asked her, what do you think it is? What do you think is happening to you? And she said, I'm not very superstitious, but I broke a lot of mirrors lately. Maybe that's that. And I just said, it's karma. You should take this book to read more. That's it.
Well, it all ended up good. She got books, right? So it actually turned out to be good.
Thank you for a nice class. Sometimes they say nowadays, like they call like the information age, right? And as a result, it seems like sometimes people feel like they're overloaded, constantly bombarded with information. So just wondering when you're distributing, how you kind of, get people to consider, like this other information that you're offering.
Oh, thank you. Very good question. Yeah, especially at the universities, they're absorbing so much stuff. And what's interesting is, like, they even tell me, like, 95% of the stuff I'll never use. They're just getting bombarded with so much information. So So sometimes they say, well, you know, I don't have any time. I'm reading so much, I got to study. So I tell them, I'm going to tell you something you've never heard about books. Books are patient. They'll sit and they'll wait and wait and wait. And there's even examples of people having, you know, books for 3 decades and finally read and they're like, wow. Yeah. There was one boy visiting his grandmother, and he was just thought, what am I going to do? So he thought, well, let me read some. So he saw the Bhagavad Gita in the bookshelf there, and he thought, well, I've heard of that book. Maybe it's a good book. So he brought it down and started reading. It's a fantastic book. He asked his grandmother, where'd you get this? She said, I'd never seen it before in my life. Didn't know how it got there. So the mysterious movements of Prabhupada's books. So, yeah, we have to distribute these books, get positive information. There's so much negative information. Yeah. So we have to, get this knowledge out and give them an opportunity to hear about Krishna. I had an unusual experience a couple of days ago. This student was saying, why is Krishna, he's always in my mind. He's always in my mind. Why is that? I said, well, that's good, you know. He said, well, why is he doing that? Yeah. It was a little unusual. I said, well, you're very fortunate. Yeah, I wish Krishna was always in my mind. But, Indian? No, he's American. Well, he just kind of drifted away, you know. It was a little unusual. Maybe he's a devotee in his past life. But yeah, this is we want to fill our minds with Krishna, get so much information about Krishna, so there's no room for any nonsense. Yeah. Not easy, but possible. Where there's a way, where there's a will, there's a way. Right? Yes, Bhakti Saul.
Thank you for the nice class. I just had a question about understanding like the material nature. Why is it the expectation of something is more exciting than the action itself?
Anticipation.
Yeah, anticipation. I always talked about it last night, kind of. But then, you know, you're expecting something. And it also, does that apply to devotional service? Like I'm expecting to do my service, and does that kind of steer in that way?
Well, this is Maya, anticipation. Maya gives us, oh, you're going to enjoy, and then so often you're frustrated. You know, there's hankering, they're hankering, they're the anticipation, hankering. And then disappointed, the lamenting. Hankering and lamenting, that's the nature of this world. But we're also hankering to serve Krishna, but we don't lament. You know, the happiness of devotional service is ever increasing. So we're hankering to serve Krishna, and you become happy by that service to Krishna. So you're not disappointed, especially if we, you know, of course it depends on the consciousness. You know, if we're doing it actually just to please Krishna, then it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's like we all chant Hare Krishna. We get up in the morning and we're chanting Hare Krishna, and we're chanting in different levels of consciousness. We're all in different levels of consciousness, and we're hankering for that time, and we'll be able to chant, you know, in a way that is purifying and pleasing to Krishna. But you know, because we're still in mature consciousness, sometimes we lament, "Oh, I'm not." Prabhupada actually said lamentation means purification. So we could lament that, "Oh, I'm still, you know, on a low level of consciousness." So we could, you know, in other words, we want to have a higher consciousness, And the highest consciousness that I know of is this Rupa Goswami's. He says, I do not know how much nectar there is in the holy name, in the two syllables Krishna. When I chant the holy name, I desire to have many millions of tongues to chant the holy name. And when I hear the holy name, I desire to have many millions of ears to hear the holy name. And when the holy name enters into the courtyard of my heart, it stops all the activities of my mind. I experience unlimited happiness. So this is someone who's experiencing the nectar of the holy name. So this gives you an idea of, that's what we should hanker for that. Yeah.
In the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj, he's speaking, and he says, or I think they're speaking to him, but he says, in devotional service you create enemies. But why is that? It's because people are envious and...
Yeah. As soon as you get a position, there'll be people that are envious. Just like Prabhupada had so much success, and so many of his godbrothers became envious. I mean, he's having success in spreading Krishna consciousness. Thousands of people are taken to Krishna consciousness, and his godbrothers, spiritual people, his godbrothers, they're envious of him. That's the nature of this world. As soon as there's any success, then people become envious. Yeah. It's the nature. Yeah, Kinchana Das Babaji, godbrother of Prabhupada. And also Sridhar Maharaj. He was very, very, very impressed. And he praised Prabhupada. He was such success, yeah. So, there were some godbrothers that are very appreciative. They had this pure hearts. But to have pure heart, that's what's missing in the material world. Yeah. It's very rare to find a pure heart. So if someone is pure, then they don't become envious. But because of material contamination, envy and jealousy, and, as soon as there's some success, there's envy. Okay. Fear.
They're afraid that you've got it right and they've got it wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you're on.
Yes, Vijay Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. Dandavat Pranams Prabhu. We have 2 questions, and the first devotee to go is Maitreya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maitreya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances.
Please accept my obeisances.
Thank you for a nice class, and especially that wonderful verse from Srila Rupa Goswami about the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Maharaj yesterday gave a class where he was saying that we have to, at the time we leave the body, we want to be absorbed in Krishna alone. And I was feeling very encouraged by all the recent classes and hearing Bhakti Prabhu's talk. Actually, that was yesterday, so it was the day before yesterday Maharaj gave his talk.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, especially for new devotees, that can be a little discouraging. Like, how am I going to be just focused on Krishna alone? I'm absorbed in so many thoughts during the day that aren't directly the form and the sound of Krishna's name. But we're also taught that things in relation to Krishna, to Dhyana, are non-different from Krishna. That if you're washing the pots are an incarnation of Lord Balaram. The temple itself is directly Krishna and Balaram. So I was encouraging myself that if I'm thinking of preaching or distributing the holy name, and I'm thinking of, say, distributing a book or washing a pot, still going back to Godhead, because it's directly related to Krishna. So I was just hoping maybe you could say a little bit about that, being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and the relationship of the activities that we perform in pursuant of serving our spiritual master in Krishna, and how they relate to our consciousness and that topic.
Yeah, thank you. There's an instance in Vrindavan where a devotee, he was so busy cooking for the deities, he had no time to chant his rounds. And this is the only time that I know of where Prabhupada sanctioned, just cook, just chant. He would chant while he was cooking. So Prabhupada saying, just serve, just all day long. You don't have to chant your rounds. He was, and he didn't leave the compound. So here's an example of someone who's he's just a very great, I forgot his name. You remember his name, Javeda? Huh? Vibhu Chaitanya Prabhu. So yeah, he was just absorbed in serving Krishna. In Prabhupada's sanction, you're so absorbed in Krishna, no time to chant your rounds, don't worry about it. And he gave the example of Arjuna. He wasn't chanting his rounds either. But he was absorbed in serving Krishna. So, yeah, whatever it is that we're doing, the washing pots, washing Krishna's pots, that's everybody gets introduced into Krishna's pots when we first join. And it's a nice introduction to Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, there's so many ways to serve Krishna, and we should understand that it's not a material activity. Yeah, this service to Krishna. We have a question here. We're going to have to interrupt the outer questions. Can we have an inner question here? Yes.
Hare Krishna. It's more of a comment.
Okay.
I was in Canada at the Ottawa Temple, and one of the speakers told a story of some brahmacharis at Janmashtami, and this was like in the 80s, and there was like 6 brahmacharis chanting Hare Krishna, like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. It was just going really, really hard at it. And a woman came up with water bottles and said, "Prabhus, would you like to help distribute this water to all the people that need it?" And they were so in the name that they ignored her, and she ended up distributing all the water on her own while they chanted. And the point of the story was the speaker was saying that when we're chanting Hare Krishna, we're literally saying to Krishna, please engage me in your service, like give me a service to do. And so a lot of the time when we finally get that service, it's like you're saying, the chanting almost becomes secondary. But when we don't have service, when we don't have work, the chanting has to be primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So, is there another question?
Yes, Vijay Prabhu. The quote from the purport to the text you chose for today goes as follows. Quote, "Of course, restraint is very difficult, but it is quite possible if one fully," and I repeat the word, fully, "surrenders to Krishna." End quote. So based on this quote, and in you mentioning engagement of body, words, and mind in the service of Krishna, my question is, why is it that to fully engage the mind in Krishna consciousness is almost impossible, extremely difficult, and you know better than me that Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita recognizes that to engage the mind, to steady the mind in service to Krishna is extremely difficult. Why is it?
Krishna explains in the Uddhava Gita, Mana Prasara, he says of difficult things to conquer, I'm the mind. It's very difficult to conquer the mind. But, as Prabhupada mentions here, it's possible if one fully surrenders to Krishna. And the reason the mind is so difficult to conquer is because it's connected there with the material energy. And what does Krishna say about the material energy? Daivi hesa gana mai, mama maya dhrati, mama vive papadyante, maya metam charantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can very easily cross beyond it. Interesting, he says very easily. So what does it mean to surrender to Krishna? Anakoyasya sankalpa, pratikoyasya vartan, rakshishititi vishvasha, goptukte saranamyata. That accept everything favorable for devotional service. It's like everything we're doing here at the temple, everything that we're doing is favorable. Reject things that are unfavorable. Anakoyasya sankalpa, pratikoyasya rakshishiti. Accept Krishna as my only protection, as my maintainer. Rakshishiti vishvata goptrute saranamyata. So this is some of the surrender that we have to go through. And when we completely surrender to Krishna, then the mind becomes a devotee. The goal is to turn the mind into a devotee. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the mind is a non-devotee. So we're in the process of trying to transform the mind from a non-devotee into a devotee. It's in the Bhakti program. We're trying to turn it into a devotee. Not easy. Just like a new Bhakti comes, it's not easy for him, for him to become a good devotee. I've seen so many come and go. So, right? So the mind it's in the Bhakti program. So we have to be very determined to turn this rascal into a devotee with the help of Krishna. We got to pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help me turn this rascal into a devotee. Okay?
Vijay Prabhu, yes, better than okay. I liked it when you said that it is possible to transform the rascal mind into a devotee. That was amazing, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Bol.